Certainly, there are some things that I could have done more effectively. There are perhaps certain things that I could have said more effectively. An interview was conducted with Joni Lamb, and the entire thing was accompanied with a provocative caption that read, "The Real Joni Lamb." This was not a typical interview. Rather, it was a mission to repair the harm that had been done. You are already aware of what this entails. This was done with the intention of portraying Joni Lamb as a lady of faith who was engaged in spiritual battle while simultaneously growing Daystar's influence. To put it simply, they desired to improve her reputation. Simply because, let's face it, Joni Lamb has been receiving a lot of criticism as of late. Over the course of several months, individuals have been questioning her choices, particularly after the audio recording that was leaked by Jonathan Lamb revealed a side of Joni that the majority of people had never seen before. Honestly, if I hadn't personally listened to those recordings, I never would have thought that Joni could actually say the things that she did mention. On the other hand, Jonathan was in possession of receipts, and now Joni Lamb is working hard to restore her name. Specifically, it is not functioning properly. All of the viewers were utterly against her. Rather than gaining people's favor, the interview made the situation much more difficult. Now that we have that out of the way, let's examine why this public relations ploy was a total and utter failure by analyzing some of the comments, reactions, and important moments from the interview. He penned a book that I had the honor of publishing, and the title of the book was Through the Storm. It should come as no surprise that this entire event was scripted and meticulously edited. There is no secret to it. Interestingly enough, Stephen Strang, who is also the publisher of Joni's book, is also the person who is hosting the interview. Having said that, let's be honest. This was never going to be a difficult-hitting topic. To tell you the truth, I can count on one hand the number of times Stephen actually talked throughout the entire film, which is 57 minutes long. All of the rest is Joni Lamb's work. And in true Joni Lamb manner, she spent the entire time meticulously preparing her narrative. She told well-selected and polished stories that were aimed to make her appear as a victim of misfortune, a woman of faith who triumphed over hurdles, and a leader who expanded Daystar's purpose. She begins by discussing her childhood and her dating experiences, including the time when she dated the wrong guy and had to write a letter to God in order to realize that she needed to choose the correct route. I was in a relationship with a young man and I was constantly trying to bring him up to my level. However, I was unsuccessful. It was throughout this process that he was bringing me down. I was aware that he was not the best option for me in God's eyes. In contrast, if the adversary were to succeed in putting me in a relationship with the wrong person, it would be destructive to both my future and the plans that God had for me. So I decided to write a letter to the Lord, and I basically began by saying, sometimes I just wish, this is funny, sometimes I wish I could just go be with you, Jesus. I stated this because I wanted to express my desire to be with you. This letter is the result of my recent writing. Simply said, I expressed my desire for my life to be in accordance with your will in the letter. I've observed something. These individuals always have a way of making God the focal point of every significant decision that they make in their lives. Always the case. I wrote a letter to God, and suddenly everything changed. The Lord told me this, God spoke to me about that, and I wrote a letter to God. Does this sound familiar to you? Due to the fact that Doug Weiss made the exact same mistake. Doug once stated that he had given God 30 days to change his life around, and to his utter surprise, everything worked out in a miraculous way. When I was 19 years old, I reached a point in my life where I wanted to end my life. What I did was simply get down on my knees and say, Jesus, I am aware that you are God, but I want to pass away today. To be fair, however, I will offer you 30 days of my life, 100% of it, and I will carry out each and every one of your instructions to the letter. The version of Joni, after she had finished writing a letter to God, all of a sudden her entire life headed in a different way. Very similar model, the same affective framework. Marcus's passing is next brought up, which is the most emotionally engaging part of the conversation. The video featured this as one of its most significant and important highlights. She discusses the causes of Marcus's death and how she grieved for exactly half a year after his passing. After that, God unexpectedly communicated with her. There was a process that took about 6 months. After that, the Lord spoke to me and said, "All right, I want you to get your house in order." In addition, I was kind of thinking, what? May I get my house cleaned up? Please explain what you mean, Lord. Also, in some way, that meant being married to Doug Weiss. It's true. Every one of us is aware of how that transpired. Someone in the audience brought up something that doesn't make sense. It took Joni Lamb less than 10 months after the death of her husband to pay the deposit for her honeymoon, despite the fact that she had been crying for a period of 6 months. Also, another individual added, prior to the announcement of the engagement, the honeymoon was already confirmed. How long did Joni Lamb lament her loss for? In February, which was 2 to 3 months after Marcus's passing, wasn't she sending Doug a text message? Are you sure that Doug did not submit a petition for divorce a few months after Marcus passed away? What exactly am I lacking? The question was directed toward her on the storm that she is currently experiencing in the media, which includes the entire Jonathan vs. Joni Lamb affair, the audio leak, the backlash, or whatever you want to call it. And here is what she had to say about it. Sebastian, I don't pay attention to this. One podcast has not been watched by me. There is not a single video on YouTube that I have watched that contains lies or lies that are only partially true. In spite of the fact that Joni Lamb asserts that she does not watch videos on YouTube that are about her, she has her own crew producing response videos to the same YouTube videos, in which they recite a script that she has authorized. Considering that she is not watching the content that they are replying to, it is unclear how she is able to give her approval to answer videos. Trying to seem as if she is above the drama and claiming that she is not paying attention while behind the scenes she is carefully manipulating the narrative is the same old approach that she has been using. In addition, let us not overlook the fact that she did the same thing with Doug Weiss. Doug does not take part in social media. Doug doesn't even bother to look at any of the social media platforms. He does not allow anything to enter his mind by any means. Despite the fact that there are a lot of interesting things that he could look at, he just says, I don't want to look at it. In the event that I am interested in conversing with a fool, I will go to a pub and just meet one face to face. If Joni Lamb and Doug aren't paying attention to or listening to social media, then how are they aware of all the criticism that they are receiving? They wouldn't be in such a hurry to delete previous stuff that contradicts their current story, making response videos through their staff, using scripts that have been properly approved, and working so hard to cast doubt on the people who are exposing them if they were honestly unbothered and not paying attention. People who are supposed to be unconcerned by what is being written about them online are a lot more invested in controlling the narrative than they are in controlling the narrative themselves. There is no denying the fact that they are observing, listening, and frantically working behind the scenes. The fact that they are so eager to clean their identities and attack individuals who are coming out is evidence that they are fully aware of how terrible this situation appears. In addition, Laura Lynn Thompson, who has been giving Daystar a real run for their money, left a comment on the video in which she informed Joni Lamb that she is welcome to appear on my show at any time to explain her side of the story. Tonight, I am having the best time of my life hanging out with her son and daughter-in-law, who are two of the most wonderful people on the entire earth. Then, the unction with Pastor Ray, who has turned out to be Daystar's worst nightmare, also extended an invitation to Joni Lamb, saying, "Tell Joni Lamb to come on the unction." Joni Lamb has the opportunity to speak for herself, and the message is loud and clear. On the other hand, will she? The call-out was quickly supported by a viewer who added, "She has already been exposed for her lies by the multiple recordings that her own son exposed. I beseech you, Joni Lamb, to repent till it is too late." In other words, this is precisely what Joni Lamb and her crew do not want. Genuine accountability on a platform that will not provide her with a script that has already been approved or permit her to ramble in circles. In all seriousness, Joni Lamb is a resident of her very own fantastical realm, mostly due to the fact that in the actual world, which is the world in which you and I live, we have become too accustomed to the polished and picture-perfect image that she attempts to present on television.